Hello and welcome to Clownland. What's been going on recently? Well, one thing is that normally at PMQs, Prime Minister's Questions, we are graced with the presence of the Starminator, the strangely robotic presence and delivery of Keir Starmer. However, this time we were treated to the Laminator, a case study in emotional dysregulation. We're going to look at a couple of clips from that. To begin, however, let us grab some of the headlines. Lammy defends failing to reveal another prisoner had been mistaken released. The Justice Secretary has raised more questions after trying to clarify. We could stop there, actually, couldn't we? The Justice Secretary has raised more questions after trying to clarify. There we go. End of the video. What he knew about the mistaken release of an Algerian registered sex offender. What did he know? The Conservatives, I think it was James Cartledge, used Mr Lammy's appearance at Prime Minister's Questions to ask 5 times, some people say it was more, if another prisoner had been released after migrant sex offender Hadoush Kabatu was released by mistake on October 24 instead of being taken to an immigration removal centre. You had one job. Mr Lammy gave an irate, angry reply but refused to say he knew anything. A day later, Mr Lammy has defended his decision not to reveal that he knew about the incident. We'll look at that apology as well, by the way, saying he did not know the full details and did not want to mislead the public. Oh, but you're kind of misleading them by not answering the darned question, Mr Lammy. Timeline confusion kills surprise. The Justice Secretary said he first found out about Kadur Sharif's release on Wednesday morning and then spent the hours before PMQs. So he's at the Ministry of Justice learning from officials. So what did he learn in that time? The hours before. I mean, he's a deputy PM, so he should be quite smart, right? So he's going to learn enough to know that, well, he knew before PMQs. Maybe I'm not learning properly. I'm preparing for his first time filling in for Keir Starmer. Now, again, we've got to factor this in, haven't we? He got a new suit, I think. And this is David, of course. And you can imagine it's historic. You can taste history. So you want it to be good. You want everything to go well. You want to show off. You want to be flamboyant. You want to basically allow people to see how great you would be as a Prime Minister. We did. Thank you very much, David, for that. However, questions have been raised about the timeline because Mr Lammy said Kadur Sharif was released before I introduced those checks. So, David Lammy saying before he introduced those checks. What checks, you may ask? So, October 27, he, David, said, the strongest release checks that have ever been in place, the bestest, the wildest, the most wonderful, were being introduced in reaction to Kabatu's accidental release. They will apply to every release from custody and are effective immediately. But Kadur Sharif was released on the 29th, 2 days later. Prison authorities then did not alert the Met Police until Monday, and the prisoner is still at large. So, let's have a look and a listen. So this is James Cartledge.
I have to say, Mr Speaker, I do think he owes it to offer an apology here on the floor of the House.
Quite a few of these MPs are sort of good at the gurning, and David Lammy is a real expert.
But he should have done that at the start of his remarks, Mr Speaker. These are very serious matters, Mr Speaker, which is why I want to ask him a further very important question. Can he reassure the House that since Kabatu was released, no other asylum-seeking offender has been accidentally let out of prison?
Now, the question here is, does James Cartledge know that, yes, there was a second release? And does David Lammy know that he knows? One has got to presume that David Lammy would at least be worried that he knows. And with that knowledge, that potential, I suppose I should say, and that worry, shouldn't he just have said, yeah, actually, I've just come from the ministry, and yeah, they have. That has happened. Yeah, that would have been it. And you know what? Yeah, there would have been furore, but some of us might have said, at least he's being honest. However, maybe he didn't know somehow, and maybe James Cartledge didn't know, and this was all a coincidence.
Deputy Prime Minister.
Well, the House is thankfully quiet, so I'm surprised the honourable gentleman didn't hear me when I said that of course I apologise and I'm sorry for the anxiety caused. But look, let me just remind him that he was a Justice Minister.
So again, you know, this is so tiresome. David Lammy's not alone. It's all to do with them. It wasn't us, Gov, it was the Tories.
That allowed our prisons to get to this state in the first place. What we inherited was a complicated system that they set up.
A lot of hand movement.
Letting people out on the sly, that's part of the problem, and we're trying to fix it.
So part of this is performance, but there's also some real irritation and I think ultimately anger in the mix.
Has been accidentally let out of prison. It's a clear question. Can he give an answer?
Deputy Prime.
Yeah, I just thought I'd zoom in on that bit. I don't know. What is David Lammy doing there?
Get a grip, man. I know I'm the Justice Secretary. That's why I'm at the dispatch box. Also,
frustrated.
Prime Minister, we know that.
Annoyed and, as I say, angry.
I'm not going to pray an aid. Dame Anne Owens is a former Deputy Commissioner in London, head of the NCA. It is for her to get to the bottom of that work. Of course, we know that there have been spikes since 2021 under his watch. When did he come to this house and apologise?
Maybe you should be apologising, David, because that wasn't just obfuscation. In my opinion, you were deliberately holding back the truth. Not a good look.
Prime Minister.
I've got to tell you, I spent 14 years in opposition and I did a hell of a lot better than he's just done. I have answered the question.
But he hasn't answered the question. But here we go again, under their watch.
Under their watch, prisons were in a mess. Suicides went up. Prison officers cut. 20,000 neighbourhood police is lost. We've deported more in the last year than they deported in the last 5 years. Please, I'm not going to take any lectures.
So we get the usual, I'll take no lectures from, the likes of you, that it is a sort of mainstay of many of the Labour so-called leadership team. Gets a little bit tiresome after a while. Here is David Lammy's apology, explanation. Well, you decide.
I took the judgment that it is important when updating the House and the country about serious matters like this that you have all of the detail. I was not equipped with all of the detail, and the danger is that you end up misleading the House and the general public.
You did mislead them, David. That's exactly what you did.